Today we have a conversation with Blake Fitzpatrick, who is the owner of Sunshine Movers. Blake is a very talented entrepreneur who has been providing excellent service to our realtors with their moves. He actually even recently purchased a house with one of our realtors, Michelle Tanner, which is fantastic. But in this conversation, we go into some very deep and universal entrepreneurial lessons that I think benefit anybody who's trying to grow their business and figure out how to be more successful. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this conversation with my friend Blake Fitzpatrick. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Blake. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you've got an amazing success story with Sunshine Movers, and we're definitely going to get into that, but I think it's really great how we came to know each other. You were first a customer of Preferred Shore, so you've moved recently, my man.
Absolutely. We just bought a house thanks to Michelle Tanner, who made it extremely easy. Like I was saying, I didn't even feel like I was buying a house until I had to go to the bank and actually wire the money. That was when I felt it. She just made it so easy. Like even when it came to looking at houses, for the whole transaction process, what to expect, all the little details that I would never think of, which is kind of funny because those little details in the moving industry are the things that I pick up and hand to my clients that they say, wow, I never thought of this.
Right, of course.
Same thing with the move with her, with Michelle.
Oh, that's great. Well, I love to hear that, and we just absolutely love Michelle, so that's super cool. Glad.
Michelle's awesome.
Not surprised to hear you had a great experience. And then I know you've been working with a lot of our realtors, where they recommend your moving services for our customers. And so, maybe before we get into all of that, maybe just tell us about, where you're from and your family and, things like that.
Well, I am one of the few. I was born right here,
Nice.
Sarasota, Bradenton. I grew up here my entire life. We ventured away when I was younger, elementary school, came back a couple years later, lived here my whole life. I have a wife, Ashley. I have 3 kids, Colton, Truce, and Amelia. My youngest is my daughter. We're all of them, when they say family owned and operated, my kids eat, sleep, and breathe Sunshine Movers.
Oh, that's great.
They're bringing cards. I don't even know about this. They'll just bring cards to their school and give them out to teachers.
Oh.
We moved one of their teachers.
Nice.
Yeah, they love it. They represent the company to the fullest. But yeah, they're awesome. We also, we try to use the company to kind of teach them fundamentals, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. Like when the hurricane came, we went and did some donations. We brought some stuff down south. They came with us, and they got to experience what it's like to give, and they got to see, things like disasters and things like that.
Right. I love that.
And they have a lot of questions. Kids have a lot of questions, especially when it was buying the house. What's the difference? We live in this house. We don't own it? No. Mm-hmm. We're buying this house. So then they're learning about the finances and stuff, and I tell them about things at work and taking care of people and things like that. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. I love to hear that, and it's important to, to share those entrepreneurial lessons to the next generation. I try to do what I can as well. I love to hear that you're involving the family. That's great.
Every chance I get. I just look forward to when they're old enough to when they can actually start pulling their own weight, whether they be a salesperson, whatever they want to do. I just hope that they want to do it. But
it's tough to force those things.
No, I'm just planting seeds as we go along, and hopefully they're picking them up because one day.
There you go. Yeah, that would be cool. Well, and I guess that would be a great segue. So, tell us about some of your entrepreneurial experiences in the past, and how long has Sunshine Movers been in business? Yeah,
I started Sunshine Movers 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think it's like a franchise. It's not. I started it from scratch. It was a random. I was actually doing drywall. I'll tell you the quick version of the story.
We have plenty of time. We can do the long version.
Nice. So I used to do construction, specifically mostly drywall, finishing odds and ends since I was 16 years old. And I believe I was 24 years old, 25 years old when I started the company. So right around that time at 24, 25, my best friend at the time, he has his own, a handyman, odds and ends, things like that. And he called me up. He says, hey, I need some help with he had some drywall job or something. And I went and helped him out. And somehow we ended up working together continuously. We'd already been friends, but we worked together for the next, I want to say 6 months. And I was bringing my own drywall jobs to the table, and I was getting a percentage of them. So a little light bulb went off. I said, hey, if I can keep getting more drywall jobs, I can keep making more money.
There you go.
And I was doing that, and I was finding ways to get those jobs, marketing. And a little light bulb went off and says, hey, you just need to start your own company. So that's what I was getting ready to do. About a month into this whole brainstorming thing, I'm with Matt one day, and his friend Mark calls him up. This guy Mark has a moving truck and pads and stuff like that. It's a really small company, but apparently his guys didn't show up that day. So he calls my buddy who I'm with, says, hey, I need some help. Can you help me? So Matt looks at me, he's like, hey, do you want to go move furniture? I said, what? Move furniture? I was like, all right, let's go. So we went out there, we finished the job with Mark, and he says, those same guys that were supposed to work with me today, I was looking forward to having them on this day and that day. I said, I'll do it. So I came out there and I worked with them a couple more days, and I enjoyed it. I really love, so when you're moving, and movers will say the same thing, you have a different customer every day, a different situation. Let's say you have a bad day, it's not going to be the same tomorrow. Right. Versus drywall, versus construction, you're in the same house, same building, just staring at walls, same problems, you go home, you come right back. So I was really enjoying the moving side of it. Now, I also was working with Mark a little bit after this, and I'd see him take calls, and people would say, hey, are you busy on this day? He's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm booked. And that's it. Didn't try to negotiate dates, didn't do anything. I'm like, Mark, got this idea, man. And I went and I told him, I was like, I'll buy a truck, and we'll do this together. And if I have a job, you'll come with me, and if you have a job, I'll go with you. And we did that for about 2 months. And I love Mark. I got nothing against him. Sure. I actually just saw him a couple of days ago, actually. But there's something, when I have a customer and it's my customer, I take pride in how that job is going. And one thing that I did early on is I would watch the customer. I'd watch them if they made facial expressions, if they were looking at something that I was doing and they maybe had a question but they didn't want to say anything, I would stop and maybe explain myself. Well, with Mark, he didn't have that. So I had at times we're saying, hey, Mark, let's do this, let's do that, don't do this. Yeah. And that was the young guy telling the old guy, we happily split away. And that's how I kind of started the company. I bought a truck. I was like, you know what, let's do this thing. And then it turned into a full-blown company. And I never intended on having what we have now, which I just ordered my 10th truck. It'll be here in August. I never intended that. It was just going to be, one truck, me working with some guys, making your own wages, that kind of thing. And it exploded. I remember when we bought our second truck, it was just like, is this really happening? And then our third one, and our fourth one, and our fifth one. It's just amazing. I'll tell you, the biggest thing I think that contributed to where we are now is taking care of people. It's not about chasing money. You chase the act of taking care of people, and money will follow. Right. All the other stuff will follow. Yes, you've got to have your mind right, and you got to make sure you're making smart decisions financially and all that stuff. But number one, deep down, you got to take care of people, and that's not just the customers. That's the employees too. Of course. That is one of our biggest things. That's kind of like the unwritten motto of mine. We take care of our crew so that they take care of the customers. We cook them breakfast. We do all these things, and we make sure that they know that we appreciate them. That's awesome. And that's how the customers get the result that they get. Sure. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud to know that my guys are happy to come to work here. Yeah, well, as you should be, for sure. And these entrepreneurial lessons, which is really kind of the meat of this conversation that our audience always appreciates, because these are universal lessons that are applicable to many industries, if not, most all entrepreneurial. I will give you one thing for this, one little nugget. Great. So the cool thing about when you take care of your employees, they feel it, they appreciate it. But then you need to find a way to publish it. Because it's not, you're not doing it to get published, right? But think about what you're doing. So if I cook breakfast for my guys, or I take them to a Buccaneers game, Lightning game, all these things, and I record this, it's going to make it easier now for hiring. Because now I can use that for when I'm trying to hire. I have my video that'll play and say, okay, this is what we do for our guys. They see this, and that's real. Okay. Sure. Plus, people like watching stuff versus reading stuff, so there's a win. But another thing I learned is marketing. Just flat out showing people what we do for our guys. People love it. I've had people call us up and say, I saw what you did for your guys. I see you guys doing these outings. This is the moving company that I want to refer to my clients. That's awesome. It's a triple win. You've got your marketing, you've got your recruiting, and you've got your employee employee retention.
Yeah.
And it's locked in.
Right.
And it cost a couple of bucks. It's hard for us because we stay so busy. So it's not the dollars, it's the reserving a day off for everybody. And that's what's tough. We're trying to do one right now. We're going to go to the golf place over here by the UTC Mall, because I'm looking at how amazing those pictures will be. If you haven't been there, you can go upstairs and you can see the green.
The pop stroke?
Yes. So where they do the catering or the events at is you go upstairs.
That's a good.
And I was looking at it, I'm like, this would be a great picture. All my guys with all the the same uniform shirts with the putting green in the background. Amazing picture. So that's our next one we're going to do.
That is fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that'll work out, and that's great. So I'd love to dive into that more, and I couldn't agree more that I'm sure that other moving companies do some of the same things that you do, not all of them, but it is, in terms of marketing, the person who talks about it more publicly is the one that's getting the credit or the recognition, because that's what I'm seeing in our industry as real estate professionals. For the most part, realtors do very similar things. Of course, everybody has their own little nuances and unique ways they can add value, but by and large, in terms of the process, most realtors are kind of conducting a very similar service. But some realtors are better at talking about it than other people, or letting it be publicly known, which is personal branding, marketing, things like that. So I'd love to dive a little deeper into that. It sounds like you're doing a nice job with digital media and video. Did I hear there that you're kind of documenting some of these events and things with photos, videos, the breakfasts, things like that?
Yeah, I've done a lot of it on my own. I got really comfortable doing selfie mode and just talking, and people like it. You don't have to be
authentic.
Perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have straight teeth and all these other things. And people, it's more authentic when there's something wrong. There's a pimple on the face, whatever. So just get comfortable and have at it. But I also work with a videographer here in town, Max Shoe Productions, amazing people to work with.
Cool.
And we have what I've put together, and then whenever I want something that I'm going to use, like on the website or something like that, I'll have them come out, and they do a great job, and they'll capture what I'm trying to capture in my little videos, but make it very professional.
A little more polished, maybe.
So they're actually going to be coming out when I do the golf event. That's what we're waiting on. So they're going to get all that footage there. We're going to start it off with breakfast in the morning. Same thing that I do, but I record it. I'm going to have them record it and make it look really,
Right.
Yeah.
So, you kind of mentioned, like, maybe if you think of it as like a tripod, which is you've got your marketing for customers, your employee retention and satisfaction, and I guess just the service, the service that people are receiving from you. That was kind of the three, if I'm not mistaken. And they're not mutually exclusive. They all kind of, rely on each other.
They do rely on each other, every single bit of it. We can't take care of the customers if we don't have the right guys. And it goes all in full circle.
So it is kind of like a chicken versus the egg type of a predicament, though. I mean, it's philosophical to try to pick one of them out, but I mean, is there one that you would say you more heavily weight than another?
Taking care of the employees.
Yeah. I'm not surprised to hear that, actually, and that's the least obvious one to people who haven't maybe ran a company with employees before.
Yeah, that's number one. I recognized, so, I'm younger. There's a lot of people that have been in business for a very long time that apparently once upon a time it was really easy to find employees. I haven't really experienced that. This is what I know. I know hard to find employees.
Yes.
That's all I've ever known, and that's what I've adapted to. But I recognized, I think it was about 3 years ago, that was where our bottleneck was. Was we've got the work, we just don't have the guys.
Right.
And that's when I really started amping it up and saying, hey, I need to publish this. People need to see this.
Yeah.
The way I always give the same analogy. If somebody was going to work, somebody was applying for a job, call it a Windows, they do Windows. I always use the same analogy. You have PGT. It's like everybody knows who they are. Big company. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I would imagine they have good benefits and all this other stuff. And then there's another company, let's call it Bob's Windows and Doors. Nothing against Bob, by the way. Bob's Windows and Doors. Now let's say I got an opportunity to do an interview with each of these tomorrow. Something comes up. I can only do one of them. Where am I going?
PGT.
PGT all day. I need to be PGT. We are PGT, but we need to make sure that they know before they even have the opportunity to come in the doors who they're going to speak with.
Right.
And this even when they do come in the doors. So we do our videos and we get them in the doors to do the interview. it's still the next hurdle is to even get them get them to come to their first day of work.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear this from so many business owners. I hear it all the time. Is that it's one thing to get them in for the interview, and then sometimes they don't even show up for their first day of work. It's just, and it might be a little bit of anxiety. It might be a new situation. It might be just because something came up and they're not really even that committed to that company. But I've learned the importance of proving who you are to these people before they even walk in the door. And then when they do walk in the door, we have a list of things that we make sure that they understand, what things that we do for our guys that other companies don't.
Nice.
Because we got to get them through that next hurdle. Once they start working with the guys, they know, because we have great guys, and that's a hard thing to find.
Right.
And so when they do start working with them and they see where they are at and how good it is, then they're good. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I need to get them in for the interview, and I need to get them in front of and on their first day of work. From there, it's on. It's
right.
good, but it's hard.
Yeah, that is the trickiest thing of operating a lot of businesses, especially depending on the industry. And I don't know much about your industry. I am friendly with some restaurant proprietors that really struggled, especially during the COVID lockdowns and things, where that was a really tricky industry to staff, and there was a lot of restaurants their tables were half empty, not because they didn't have customers, but because they didn't have enough servers for the capacity. So did your business kind of grow up until COVID and then kind of shrink a little bit, or was it just kind of like a natural progression, or how did that impact you?
I know that there's others that say the same. When COVID came, we exploded.
Yeah.
We got so busy. Florida, everybody wanted to come to Florida.
Yeah.
And then you had everybody moving around. You had houses rentals that were now being sold out from under people that, their lease was coming up. They thought they were going to renew it, and the house sold because some out-of-state buyer with cash, and a lot of people moving.
Yeah.
All types of different reasons, but everybody was moving. And now what I believe we're experiencing, all these people that came down, because I talk to people all the time and they're moving, so I get a feel for what they do and how they do it. They come down, they rent, then they buy a year later, or they buy, they don't like it, it wasn't what they expected, so now they want to change neighborhoods.
Right.
Whichever the case is, all these people that came down here, there's still going to be a lot of movement.
Right.
It's like throwing a rock in the water. There's that ripple. It takes a minute for it to stop, and I think it's that ripple is going to be happening over the next 5 years.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more, and we see it on our side of the equation too. It's always interesting to me. A lot of times people buy a new home to kind of hit the easy button, and they're just coming here quick, and they walk into sales center and make a purchase, but then after they establish themselves, they're like, I'm kind of looking around, and it might only be a year later, but like I kind of think I like the amenities in this community a little better, or I want to be a little closer to this, to my kid's school or job or whatever the case may be. So
all the
people
time.
Move around pretty frequently here.
And what I'm starting to see too, because I always want to know, why are you leaving the state? So you got people that move in and then they move out. A lot of people, it's not what they expected, or they get homesick. A lot of people come down here and they have family from wherever they came back and they want to go back to theirs. Sometimes investments, however. But there's a lot of different reasons that people are moving back out of here.
Absolutely.
I'm not seeing them. It's not a floodgate. It is not. People.
Yeah.
I don't see people running out of here. But the few here and there, it's just interesting to find out why.
It definitely is. I mean, Florida is a lifestyle that's a bit unique, and you for the most part love it. But for some people, it's not their cup of tea, and that's why there's choices. Yeah.
Born here, raised here, and now I have a company here, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out.
No, I was born in Florida as well, on the East Coast, so I'm with you, and I'm not going anywhere. Love it here.
I love it. Except for the rain. It's tough for us because our season is summertime in Florida, and summertime is rainy season.
That's a juggling act.
Water does not go well with moving your furniture. Yeah,
for sure. So in terms of the service you provide, is it mostly in-state, or do you do national moves as well?
So right now at this moment, we're only doing in-state because we are so busy. We are restricted by how many guys we have. We don't hire random guys.
Yeah.
We don't. And right now, with the amount of guys that we have, it's just too hard to leave the state. We should be going back out of state by the end of summer, I would hope. But yeah, mostly everything here in Florida. Our service area is technically the whole state of Florida, but if somebody was moving to Sarasota or from Sarasota to any other part of Florida, that's a great move for us.
Yeah, perfect.
80%, 90% of our moves are right here within town. Sarasota to Bradenton, Palmetto, Clearwater, this little area here. But we get out quite a bit.
Nice. Is there an easy way, without looking at graphics and things, to share kind of like the pricing structure, how you go about pricing a move? Or
So moves fluctuate. The packing portion of a move, that's what really fluctuates. For example, it is kind of easy to give somebody a ballpark of over the phone just going off a description of the moving portion. When it comes to packing, it varies quite a bit. But just to give you a ballpark, a 3-bedroom home with 1 living room, patio furniture, just to move is typically, it could be anywhere on the low end of $1,000, the high end of $2,500. And if you're talking about like high-end furniture, things that require more time, you might be looking at closer to $3,000, and that's ground to ground.
Sure.
Higher end homes, higher end furniture, things like that, it involves a little bit more. And we protect everything, but obviously if I've got a table that's $50,000 compared to a table that's $50, we're going to spend more time on the,
of course,
doing extra layers of protection and things like that. But in a nutshell, anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 is usually a range for a 3-bedroom home.
Got it. And then how extensive does your packing options get?
As little or as much as people need. We'll pack up the entire home, or we'll just pack up the hard to pack items.
Yeah. So theoretically, if someone were to call and just want to walk away and give you the keys and be like, hey, make this go there.
We actually just did that on Bird Key.
Is that right?
We just did that on Bird Key. We had a pretty big project. That's another video that's coming out.
Cool.
They literally gave us the keys. We had 30 days. 30 days. It was a 6,500 square foot home right on the edge of Bird Key. Beautiful house. I almost slept there. I was like, you know what? I've got the keys to the house. But no. But we ended up spending, 7 days in that house, packing everything, furniture, the artwork. I mean, if somebody wants to give us the keys, we'd love that.
Yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. That sounds like a great opportunity.
Usually people are restricted. They've got a time frame. I know for example, when I just moved, the more I packed, the less I had up until the move day.
Yes.
I realized, I already packed it. I need that though. Usually people want to pack up the day before the move, which we do. That's usually how it works. We come in the day before to pack, and then the following day to move.
Sure.
If it's a big, extensive move, lots of stairs, a lot of distance, sometimes what we'll do is pack one day, load the next day, and then unload the following day.
I see.
There's a lot of different ways to break moves down. And there's 2 ways to look at it, and this is something that I'm trying to find the best way to explain to clients. So you can either go on the budget side or you can go on the convenience side.
Right.
And sometimes people need the convenience, people with busy lives, and there are ways. You almost have to say, well, how much am I really going to get done before the move?
Sure.
And if you want to kind of plan for worst case scenario, just put an extra guy on it. If it's a 2-man move or it's a 3-man move, just add another guy. It might cost a couple more bucks, but you're going to get organizing. You're going to have a lot more. I mean, imagine the guys having a very stretched out 8-hour day where they're going hard to make it in 8 hours. Or you got 3 guys that could easily do the move in 5 hours. They're going to have more time to give the customer service. And I'm trying to find the right way to, not to sell this, but to explain it to somebody so that they don't take it as, I'm just trying to upsell, because that's not the point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you approach that conversation sensibly, most people wouldn't get that sense. I mean, from a competitive perspective, you never really want to be in a race to the bottom. That's a race that's not worth winning. But most customers, I mean, especially like the Bird Key move that you mentioned, I mean, that I'm sure was an affluent customer that was hiring you. So that said, I mean, most affluent people, they want to pay a premium for, in all aspects of their lives. They probably have concierge doctors. They don't want a cheap doctor. They want the best doctor. They don't want a cheap financial advisor. They want the best one. And so when it comes to moving, similar methodology would apply. So I think that most people, I mean, it's just a matter of attracting the right customer. So
exactly.
What it comes down to.
Absolutely. Convenience. And when you're moving, there's so much going on. I just made a video about this too. Like, there's so many things going on, and all it takes is one thing to go wrong, and it becomes a domino effect.
Right.
And so, like, I try to put a lot into making sure that what we do is perfect. And I've noticed that sometimes those clients they'll try to veer towards, well, what is this gonna cost? When it should be, what can we do to make this as seamless as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd like to, and we will definitely link to your website and things so customers can learn more about, how to place orders and pricing and all that sort of thing. I'd like to get back more into the entrepreneurial side of like your journey. So, I mean, when you mentioned that to you, the linchpin or the lead domino, since we were just talking about dominoes, that was more important than anything else was taking good care of your staff, your employees, which really translates to me, what I'm hearing is good leadership on your part. And so I'm just curious if you've studied leadership or if this just came natural to you or if there's any inspirations that you could care to share.
This is now the third time I've heard something about leadership to me about my guys in like the last 2 weeks.
Interesting.
And I have never really looked at myself as a leader, but it's starting to dawn on me because the first person that mentioned this, I started to think about it. I didn't say nothing. I just took it with me and thought about it.
How many employees are you up to now?
About 30.
Well, I mean, you're a leader.
But I've realized now that who I am to them, there is a bit of looking up to me.
Of course.
So I now know that my words, they carry a lot of weight. So I've noticed, since I've heard this thing about being a leader and I thought about this, I choose my words wisely with the guys. And I say things, I give them inspiration.
Awesome.
I say what I can say, because I know it's not just random words from a random person. And I've noticed from those few conversations, it's like they light up a little bit. I've got one employee that's about to have his first daughter, he's got a son. And I just sat and, and it is hard as a business owner to take time and sit with your guys. You're dealing with so many things, but I took time, I sat with him, I was talking to him about his daughter, and I was getting excited with him and stuff. And then next thing I know, we started talking about like life stuff, real life stuff. And I was realizing that he was almost, he was looking for advice a little bit, and I was like, wow, this is amazing right here. I never saw myself as the person that would be giving somebody advice or my words to carry this much weight, and here we are. And I took advantage of it. I made sure that I said everything I could say to lift him up, and because my kids are older than his, I had some advice to give, and I think it did really well.
That's awesome.
It's just to recognize as a business owner that you do your words carry weight, whether they're good or bad.
Right.
It's important, Yeah. I love the idea of being a leader. That's amazing.
Well, you are a leader, whether it's just dawning on you more recently or not. But with good leadership, you can continue to really build your business. But I would encourage anybody to really become a student of leadership. And also, I think what's great is that it's natural to you to do it in an inspirational type of a way where you're sharing your enthusiasm and trying to lift people up. Because, I mean, not every leader is that way. There are a lot of fear-based leaders as well that they're trying to crack the whip and instill fear in people to perform more. And I, in my experience, I haven't seen that work out well in the long term. And I share your type of leadership style where I just try to encourage people to be their best, do their best. I mean, I think that something to consider maybe is to help like paint a vision, a picture of a vision for people that they may not really see what's possible in their life right now, but if you can kind of like help them see a vision of something a little bit greater in the future with some hard work and dedication to your organization, then that to me is good leadership.
That is absolutely true. I don't remember where I read it, but about 2 years ago, I read something about how they need to have a piece of the vision to know what they're working towards.
Right.
And I think it was an Audible book is what it was. And I started at our meetings the meetings were about like how not to do this or to do that or what to expect here. Now I was telling them, this is what we're doing. This is a truck that's on order. This is what we're hoping for. Eventually one day we want to have this. This is our short-term goals. This is what we've accomplished in the last 60 days or the last 6 months or whichever. And I gave them a piece of that, and it was. I remember seeing their reaction to this, and it wasn't something I was expecting. Like they were genuinely interested in where the company was going.
Right.
And I saw a click. I saw a click.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, every story is differently, and I mean, an example that's coming to mind. My father was close friends with a man who owned at the time, a relatively small garbage company, but it grew over decades, and a lot of the early employees, like some of your guys that are moving furniture, those types of people in his organization ended up becoming millionaires decades down the road. You know, and so things like that. I mean, it's not terribly unusual, and it's really cool to be part of those sorts of situations, or even just to observe. But I think it's amazing what you're doing, and you've got that natural leadership capacity that evidently is working.
Apparently it is. Like I said, I never would have expected to ever be here.
Yeah.
Sitting here, company where it is, all of it.
The other thing I think that would be really nice to touch on, because again, these are just universal entrepreneurial ideas and lessons, but is marketing. You know, you have to take care of your employees, and that is one of the most important things. That's what kind of propagates bringing on more customers. When your existing customers are having great experiences with your employees, of course, then that's going to help the business continue to grow. But you also need to be really proactive at just gaining new customers and making sure that people are aware that you're in business and available to help them move. So I'd be curious how you think about moving or marketing rather, how you think about marketing your service and some things that have worked or anything like that comes to mind.
Yeah, so we as a moving company, there are a lot of companies that market. They will find people that are moving. You can mail them. You can get a list of all the houses that are going on the market and mail to them. You can buy leads from lead providers and things like that. I have learned to stay away from all that. I have discovered that the absolute best customer that we ever see is the ones who find us, who look us up, do their research, and find us for the right reasons. Lead providers, I've again stayed away from, because I know that when I'm on the computer searching for something and I'm putting in my information, and maybe I'm looking for a mechanic, I know that when I'm putting in my information to some lead providing service, that I know my information is getting sold to multiple mechanics. I'm smart enough not to do that. My customers are smart enough not to do that. So we stay away from all that stuff, and we just do a lot of organic. We've put a ton of money, and I mean a lot, into our website and to SEO, search engine optimization. And I make sure that our images, our branding, it's all family. I give them, your website is your window into the company. Their customers, especially online, finding somebody for the first time, that's all they see. And you want that window to be as big and wide as possible. And you want them to see as much as they can. And I recognized this a long time ago, and I put a lot of time, a lot of effort. The photos that we have, the family shots, the videos that we've done have all branded on our website. And I've just put in a lot of money for the SEO. If I can get them to see this website and see who we are, then it's done. It's over with. That's the right customers are going to want to use us. So my marketing has been 100% just building the website and pushing SEO. I don't do too much of these out of ordinary, types of marketing. I don't even do Google Ads. Yeah. Again, I'm smart enough. If I'm searching for something online, I know to go past the Google Ads. Right. My customers are smart enough to skip the Google Ads and go straight to. A lot of people have success, and you look at the return on investment on this. There's a formula that you use. If you get this, it's worth it. But again, we're limited by how many good employees that we have. Right. So for me to max this out with those type of jobs, we're staying maxed out without having to do any of that stuff. I have done a couple of unorthodox marketing. My favorite one.
Yeah, is it anything you care to share?
Yeah, I'll share it. I hit it on a podcast that we were doing one on about moving companies. It was a moving company to moving company. I didn't mention it. Yeah. But I'll mention it. Cool. So one of my absolute favorite forms of marketing is every time a house goes on the market and goes under sale, they get an email from me. I have like 4 or 5 email addresses, so it's not sending too many out of one. And it's all automated, and a lot of the realtors, they know that it's automated, and I get some really good responses. They know that they're automated, but I wrote out even though I was told you shouldn't write out this long email and put all this information, and I did, because I think if they're going to at least give it a little bit of thought, they're going to read, what I put on there. So I put everything, how I'm involved in Realtors Association, how we offer discounts to Realtors clients on their behalf to try to make it a package for them. And the amount of responses I get from that, it's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah,
love it.
sometimes we send out, sometimes I see 40 and 50 of them a day.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Every time I house. And I have people that I'll meet them. I've never met them before. Like, yo, you're Blake. I get your emails all the time. So I put a house on the market. There you are.
Yeah.
I sell a house. There you are.
That's perfect. I love that. I love that.
That is one of my, that's the only out of the box form of marketing that I do. And it works really well.
Nice. Love to hear that.
And another thing that I do is I never say no to the opportunity to be a part of an event. Last week, Bree Karate Engineering, they have kids at the Lakewood Ranch Preparatory Academy, and she sees me making videos of me cooking for my guys on my big flat top grill, and she's like, hey, would you want to come out and cook for them? I was like, absolutely.
Cool.
So me and my two sons, we went out there flipping burgers and everything like that, and just put up a little sign,
Nice.
if people don't know who I am, or even, at least out of the corner of the eye, they saw Sunshine Movers, and then they may move a year or two down the road, and it'll come up. So, but
So
we never say no to events and things like that. That's it's not just the fact that it's marketing. It's just good to give back to the community, and I feel very, very, very strongly about giving back to the community. I mean, I own a company that. We work for them. We do work. We profit. We are a part of the community. So every chance I have to give back, I do. Whatever I can do.
Love that.
And something that's cool about the moving company in general is that we have a form that a lot of people don't have. We have these giant trucks. So like we've worked with people for doing donations,
billboards
and stuff
driving
like that.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done some stuff with people getting donations. There is a big. Can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. Either way, they do a lot of stuff with kids with Down syndrome and stuff like that. They house them and things, and every once in a while, people will donate stuff to them. Tandem bicycles, house full of furniture, things like this, and we'll always do it for free.
That's awesome.
We just go get it and bring it over there, no questions asked. There was a video where we dropped off that tandem bicycle, and a couple of the kids got on it and were riding it, and I saw the video of it because I wasn't there. It was one of my guys. And it was just like the smiles. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, that is great. So what does the marketing team or person look like right now? Is it kind of solely yourself, or do you have some help? Or
it is me with my third-party people that I use. I got my video people. I've got my print, my design, the woman who does the designs and stuff like for my flyers, and then I have my print shop that's right up the road. And between all these people that I work with, I'm very lucky to have them because they do make things possible that I don't see other company owners having that capability without those type of people.
Nice.
And it is important, the branding and stuff like that for whoever's designing it. Because I've worked with many designers, and some of them just don't get it.
Yeah.
They just don't get it. And you get one that works, pay whatever it costs, take care of them. Because that branding, that consistency throughout, it's important.
Who do you have helping in operations, or are you taking?
I have an operations manager, thank God.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
The moment I hired an operations manager, everything was lifted. He's amazing. I tell him all the time too. And the guys love him. I was just talking to my guys yesterday, and they were talking again about how great he is. Having an operations manager take all that off of me, it allows me to focus on other things in the business. You don't realize it, but you may only spend, let's just to throw a number out there, you may only spend 5 hours a week doing this thing, but you don't realize there's it's still consuming other parts of your mind for portions of time. So when you take that all out completely and you're able to focus, things happen, and that's what's happening right now.
Well, some entrepreneurs kind of struggle with trying to figure out at what point they should take that risk of hiring an operations manager. Or was that an easy decision for you to come to, or
not at all?
Yeah,
not at all.
So it was a little uncomfortable at first.
Yeah, and we've taken a whack out of it, like hiring inside, like trying to find somebody that's a mover and bring them in as an operations manager. It didn't really work out. But I when I found my operations manager that I have now, His background, nothing in moving whatsoever, but he worked for a long time at a company as an operations manager. It was like a machine shop, and I met him. He seemed like a guy that would get along, because that was part of it too. We wanted to find somebody that really
culturally a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. And he hit the ground running. I couldn't believe it. I had some processes that I had written down that weren't in effect, and I just showed it to him. I was like, "Hey, check this out. This is what I want to do eventually." 2 weeks later, I'm asking him a question about something, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're doing that." I'm like, "No." He's like, "Yeah, we're doing that."
Wow.
It's just amazing the things that he puts together. I'm very proud of this idea. I'm hiring a business coach for him and for my sales manager. Basically like my general manager, the woman who's been with us, my first office hire. She's amazing. She's made everything possible. But I'm getting a business coach for the both of them. Somebody here in town that I've used in the past. Because the way I see it, processes, things like that. I'm the process builder. I'm the architect. I'm the one that's putting things together for them. But now there's a bit of a distance between me and the managers.
Right.
So for me to create processes, it's tough. So I thought about it. I was like, they need to look at this as a process. They need to look at, how do I turn this into a process?
Sure.
And I remember my office manager, this is funny, she had one computer screen, and I was like, you got to have 2 and 3 computer screens, because I had just done it. I was like, this is amazing. She's like, I don't need 2 or 3 computer screens. I'm like, yes, you do.
Yeah.
So I gave her, I set her up with 2 or 3 computer screens, and like a couple of days later, I came in the office, and she's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you. That's the way I'm looking at her when she gets the business coach, because she doesn't understand like the processes and how things can get just so much easier. But I think once she starts to work with a business coach, she's going to have one of those aha moments like she did when that second and third computer screen showed up. That's what I'm hoping for anyways.
That's really interesting to me. And what I'm curious about, maybe what I think would be useful for other people that haven't quite gotten to the same type of level in business that you have by now, is that you started out as a guy with the truck with the couple pals or whatnot. So when and how did you make a transition from being like the early stage entrepreneur to starting to look at like the hierarchy of who's in the organization and the org chart and figuring out how to structure all of those things? Did you have to study that at some point, or was it just kind of intuitive to you? Or?
No studying whatsoever. It just, things fell into place. At one point, I was just too busy. I was just too busy doing too many different things. And it was time. It was time that we hire somebody. We actually, when we hired Laura, that's the one I'm talking about. That's amazing. Our first office hire. When I hired Laura, we didn't even know what she was going to be doing. Like we joke about it sometimes. We had her driving around with me and doing estimates and stuff, and then taking the phone. And I didn't realize like what she would be doing. I just knew I needed help. And then one day she grabbed the phone and answered the phone, and I heard it, and she just kept doing it and kept doing it. And it was like, that was the calling. And then that was what she did full time, was just basically taking and making calls from new customers. And then again, we got busy and we needed to hire somebody else, and we did. And now that person's taking calls. Well, now we have 3 people taking calls, and now Laura she basically observes everything and makes sure that everything is going as it should, because we cannot deal with fires. Not when you're moving.
Right.
Can you imagine movers not showing up or something? Exactly. You can't have them. So, but it all just kind of fell into place. We didn't study anything. We didn't really plan for anything, but that's where I am now. Now we are planning. Now we see what we've done in the past and what needs to be done in the future. And now those plans of like, what does our next 3 employees look like? We have that written down. We know what we want. But starting out, no, not at all. Just figuring it out as I went along.
That's 100%. Amazing that you had that great of intuition to just be able to kind of navigate those early times, and that's where a lot of people get hung up.
I think a big piece that made that easy is I discovered a CRM, customer relationship management. Basically, it's your program that you use. Call comes in, you log the information, you book the moves, all that stuff. We got in with a really good CRM that was just starting out, so we were with them from the beginning days, and it really just it took things that didn't have a process and put it into a process. And that actually contributed a lot to our growth, is just having those processes put in front of us. Another thing too, a few years back when I hired a business coach for my first time, I was introduced to Google Documents. Had no clue what they were.
Yeah.
And I never forget, I still have my very first Google document. And that was just ideas running and running and running and running and running. Because I used to have all kinds of crazy ideas. I had so many ideas, and it would be so hard to determine what's the good one and what's the one that you just leave it alone. Get away from it. So I'd write everything down. Because when you're thinking about, when you're coming up with ideas and you're brainstorming, you might think of something that's really good, or maybe you think of something that didn't sound good. But if you type it out, you can come back to it later on.
Right.
And that's what I did a lot of. And then my business coach, she would share on it. She was able to see it, and she'd come in and she'd take some of my ideas and throw some of hers out there, or break things down for me in a different way. But Google Documents, that's what helped us grow a lot, because I was able to document processes and things like that. And now we have things like Trello board and all these other fun things that we use. But for me, not knowing any of these things, Google Documents, the fact that I could write out notes and share it with people, and then they can write in notes in there, a piece of paper and a pencil was obsolete to me at that point. Google Documents.
Yeah, that helps a lot to, like you said, collaborate, be searchable, all that sort of thing. Well, one of the things that we are constantly encouraging our realtors to participate in is to use their CRM. And I'm so glad that was an unsolicited little word of advice that you just gave everybody, because it's mission critical. And if you don't have your customers managed properly and have systems for keeping people warm and engaged, you're really just expending a lot of unnecessary energy.
I don't know how we would ever grow without our CRM. I mean, to fill in one equation, to drop one piece of data and it fill in the rest of the equations that are necessary. I'm not sure what yours would look like, but for us, we have things like payroll for the employees, hours to keep track of, customers' build time, materials that we are selling the customer, the materials that we already brought out to the all these things, to try to keep track of all these things. We have it all in one. You do something here, it's across the board.
Nice.
When they finish the job, the hours to the customer build, the guys, their payroll hours are all accounted for. Super simple. And then we just build processes around that, where a human has to go in and do certain little things. But yeah, the process that came out of that were like, I couldn't see how companies operated 30 years ago without these types of tools.
That's true. Actually, it's pretty amazing to think of what past businesses did with such limited technology, and also it's amazing to think of what's possible now.
And I do see, because I work with, this is another thing that we can talk about too, but I work with a lot of moving companies, bigger than me, smaller than me, and we see what works, what doesn't work, we trade information. And one thing I've seen is companies that really dial in on like programs and software and technology, and find ways to use it for their business, because there's so much stuff out there. And there's a lot of learning curves when you try to adapt. I remember Trello. I was looking at this like, what? And then, about, I don't know, 10 days later after playing with it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But you really got to dive in and play with the softwares, the technology, and see what works for you, because it can really, really, really help for marketing, for anything. It takes certain things that might take you 2 hours and be done in 30 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or have something that's already happening automatically and you don't have to do it anymore.
Right.
So I do know that software and all that stuff, it's a big piece of our growth, and it's probably something I don't spend enough time is diving into more of them.
I don't know. I think you're at a different level. I don't think it's necessarily your job to understand all the software, but I'd be curious to know, when did you decide to get a business coach? About how long ago was that for you?
Processes. So processes, when I was talking to other moving company owners, and that's another thing I'll talk about, but I was talking to another moving company owner, and I was learning about processes and procedures and the importance of them. And that's when I tried to take a whack at coming up with a process or a procedure. And there's a coaching team here in town, pretty well known, Performance Excellence, Tammy Dom and her husband. And I reached out through one of them. I said, hey, looking for somebody that can help me with processes. And then I started working with Tammy, and she
About how long ago was this?
That was Man, 4 years, 5 years, 3, 4.
Okay.
I think it's close to 4 years, give or take. It's hard to track sometimes, but I would say about 4 years ago, I started working with them. Night and day difference. Somebody turned a light switch on.
Yeah. That's a great testament to what they were able to accomplish because, again, I think it takes a lot of wisdom to have recognized the need and the foresight to foot the bill for hiring a coach. Because
I think coaching is important, and you got to take a shot at it. And if maybe you work with one, because it's not just business coaches, there's life coaches. And this is life-changing stuff that they pour into you. I've got a life coach that I work with now. That's not them. I'm actually hiring them for my employees, but I have one extremely expensive. I'm still wondering if I paid too much. And I'll just put it out there. It's $10,000 a month for this life coach. And but he's given me some stuff. He's actually the one who pushed me to buy the house.
Fantastic.
He's feeding me so many little nuggets, and I was already looking for a house. I was already talking to Michelle about a house. But when he said, as long as you wait to buy that house, you're going to have that thing that you're working for. And once you get that thing that you're working for, you can begin working for something else, to that next thing that you want or need in life. And that made sense to me. And then he said, when you're looking for these houses, because I was telling him about the different houses I was looking at, he said, you want things around you that are going to give you energy, that are going to make you feel good. And he made a lot of sense to me, because I know that when I'm feeling good, it pours out. There's all kinds of good things happening, and it goes right into the people around me. They can feel the energy. That's just a good vibe, especially me as a business owner. And on the contrary, if I come in a bad mood, this is the direct opposite.
Right.
So things like the house that you live in, or the people that you surround yourself with, the dieting and exercising, of course, all these things are important to the result. If you want to be successful, you need these things that give you energy. And that house, because I told him because I kind of took what I was talking to him about, and the house that I bought with Michelle's help, it's full of life. The windows are facing the green landscapes. We've got kids everywhere. It's just a really nice family house.
Awesome.
Like, it's a good feel. And then it's, they got a lot of these houses that no trim, no nothing, more of a box kind of thing. A lot of these common houses. This house has got all the trims. It's got all the paint colors are just perfect.
Nice.
Like, the flooring it's different, and there's a lot of life around the house, and it feels good. Yeah. And that's why I bought that house. Because it gives me the energy that I need. When I wake up, I feel good. I've got my own office with my built-ins in there. Yeah. That is amazing stuff. So I spend more time in that office than anywhere else in that house. I just sit in there.
Well, I love to hear that. And it really can't be, I guess, overstated, the value of what a good coach can do for your life. And because as you mentioned, I mean, energy is everything. And if you're frustrated and upset, it doesn't matter how much money is in the bank, how many people love you, how much success you've had. Your life is frustrated. So
you don't see what you don't see, and sometimes that coach will open your eyes up. And like I said, there's business coach, there's life coach, there's a process coach, there's all different types of they're out there. And a lot of people don't. Just all you have to do is look them up. Yeah. Give them a call. They want to talk to you. I promise you that.
Well, I mean, look at all of the great athletes. They still have coaches. Michael Jordan had a coach. LeBron has a coach.
Isn't that something? Yeah. You've got these people that are the number one athlete, number one in his class, and he still has somebody help and teach him and things like that.
It is important. Well, kind of wrapping up here, and we can kind of, if there's anything that comes to mind that we haven't covered you'd like to throw out there, by all means do so. But I definitely wanted to ask, I'm just curious, what's next? What's the vision for the future of your company?
We are just hanging on at this point. We don't know what we want to do yet. And like I said, I just want to keep taking care of the customers that are in front of us and keep taking care of the guys. I know we want to purchase a warehouse. That's a definite goal. I have this vision of this perfect office with these glass cubicle windows and and our signage on the walls. But it's tough down here with the real estate, the cost. But that's definitely, I would call that a 5-year goal. For us to be able to purchase a warehouse. That was another reason why I purchased the house. You can't rent a house and purchase a warehouse.
Yeah.
So you gotta knock one out and then the other. But we are looking at some growth opportunities. I'd love to have some semi trucks. Right now we only have 26-foot trucks. I'd love to have some semi trucks and a warehouse. And like I said, I work with other moving company owners. That's one of there's a few things that I'm very proud of. One's my moving company, one's my family.
Sure.
And the other is this organization that I've put together for moving company owners. It started off as a small idea, and it grew and it grew. We have 1,000 moving company owners that are part of this group. Some out of the United States.
That's incredible.
And we actually get together and we have like, what do you call it? Like power meetings. So we actually have one.
Mastermind.
Mastermind, that's the word.
Yeah.
We actually have one coming up next week. We're going to Tampa.
Fantastic.
They've got a very nice house. I guess it's more like a mansion right on the water. We're going to have a couple boats out there, and we're going to have powwows.
Sounds brilliant.
The ones that we've done in the past have a private chef, and then we sit down and we brainstorm. They set up like P&Ls and stuff and go over.
And you've completely created this organization yourself,
so I created the group for moving company owners, and now what's happened is lots of relationships have broken off of that and stemmed from this. And my good friend Wade, who is the owner of Two College Brothers in Tampa, and my good friend Chad, who is the owner of a moving company down in Venice, Master Movers, they're the ones who put together these masterminds. And so they're pretty cool. You get all these moving company owners, they basically fly down here from out of state, and we sit there and powwow. It's a vacation, but it's totally, and it's
productive.
Yeah, big time. So we got one coming up here in next couple of weeks. But that's been a big contribution to my success. It's interesting because, and I'll try to be quick here, but
no, it's all good.
It's interesting because before I ever started this and talked to other moving company owners, I thought I was on top of the hill. Like 3 trucks, 4 trucks, I thought I was on top of the hill. Next thing I know, I'm becoming friends with people that have 30, 40, 50 trucks, multiple locations. And all of a sudden I drop down to the bottom of the hill.
Right.
And it basically, it allowed me to see like, okay, it can get way bigger than this, way bigger than this.
Right.
And now I have people I can talk to and confide in. And it's interesting because a lot of other industries, you won't see that. You won't see people share information with each other. And we do, and it works really well for us.
That's great.
Sometimes it can get a little tough. I am very competitive in my head, so sometimes I'm looking at a company that's growing faster than me or something like this, and it's like, ooh, what are they doing differently than me? That's where that business coach had to tell me, he's like, no, that's not how you look at it, buddy. Don't even. I had to step back. I was like, all right.
Yeah, any entrepreneur typically has a competitive streak in them, and there are productive ways that you can use that to fuel your progress, but
it can hurt.
But there are other ways that there's a point of diminishing returns for sure.
It can hurt. I've been caught. I've had times and I had to like snap out of it. But again, and I know that I shouldn't be looking at it like that. But then I have a business coach that actually tells it to me in my face, at a different angle, at a different light, and then it makes more sense that way.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about a coach. I mean, they're generally not sharing, like information you've never heard before. They build a relationship with you and know what buttons to push at the right time to incite certain, changes in performance or thought processes or, things like that. But, yeah. Anything else come to mind that we haven't covered? Or?
That's it. I think we got a lot.
Well, I certainly appreciate you spending some time to share your story with us. I think it's an incredible story, and I'm happy to hear that you're recognizing your role as a leader, because it sounds like you're making great ripples for the people that are involved in your organization. And I know that our realtors and many other realtors in the local community are really enjoying the service that you provide and are happy to confidently recommend your service to their customers, which is a big deal. So I wish you the very best on your entrepreneurial journey, my man. I hope that things keep going the right direction, and with the help and the team that you have, I have no doubt that they will.
I certainly appreciate that, and I appreciate you having me out here. And as I said, anybody working with Preferred Shore, we do everything we can to take care of their clients, and we do offer certain incentives for those clients, because we like to make it a package deal. We want to make your realtors look like the hero at the end of the day. We want them to go back and say, thank you so much for referring this company to me. Because of you, I got that. What a package deal. And then it just makes everybody look good.
Love it.
That's my goal.
Fantastic.